Welcome to Greentree Approvals and Alerts. In this video we're going to look at instant alerts and pop-up messages and how they're used in the real world. Firstly, let's have a look at instant alerts in action. Here we can see a user entering a CRM quote. As they choose the organisation, in this case Kangan Education Unit, we have an instant alert appear. Now at this point in time the user can't click on anything else other than the instant alert to acknowledge that they've read it. Here the instant alert is telling the user that the customer Kangan Education Unit has a balance over 60 days old. Now let's have a look at how that instant alert actually got there. So what we need to do is go into Approvals and Alerts and Rule Maintenance, and this is where we define the rule that will fire our instant alert. When you're defining a rule, you can choose any Greentree class that you want this rule to fire on. In this case I want it to fire on a CRM organisation being selected, so we will choose CRM organisation. I can then select when I want this rule to fire. I could choose form driven, so when a CRM organisation was created on new, changed or deleted. I could choose an instant alert. A schedule rule, which means I may want it to occur once a day, once an hour or something like that, or a programmatic condition, for example when it was loaded from Excel. In this case I want it to fire as an instant alert. On the What to Do tab I can then select the conditions I want my rule to fire upon. So in this case I need the system to check that the organisation, when linked to a customer, and that customer has a balance over 60 days, we want the rule to fire. Now as I click on the drop down here, we can see there are some pre-loaded conditions in relation to organisations. In this case I'm going to use record selection criteria, which this allows me to access the attributes on the CRM organisation. So here on the right hand side we can see all the attributes related to the organisation. As I scroll down through here, what I'm looking for is the reference to the accounts receivable customer. So as I scroll down here we can see all of my references, and in this case I have one called My GTAR Customer. If I open that up I can then see the link to the actual customer in accounts receivable. What we now want to do is access the customer's balances, and they're stored in a current period summary. So in the customer there will be a reference link to my current period summary. Within there we'll see the customer's overdue balances. In this case we want to check overdue 2, overdue 3 and overdue 4, and simply by double clicking it will add it to my statement on the left hand side. Now what I can do is actually put my criteria in. So if any of these are greater than 0, then I want my rule to fire. So simply by changing them all to be greater than 0 and choosing OR, so if any of them are true, I want this rule to fire. Also what I want to do on this rule is I don't want this rule to fire on every screen where a CRM organisation was selected. So what I also would like to do is when it's called from a certain form. So all the forms within Greentree are then listed within this as I click OK. In this case I want it to be the CRM quote form. The CRM quote maintenance form. So when this rule is called from the CRM quote maintenance form. Now I will choose the action that I want to occur. In this case I want to display an instant alert message. And again we have some predefined actions that can take place at this point. The one I want to choose is display instant alert message, and then I can put together a message that I want to show the user. I have access to all the properties in relation to the record I've just got, and I can type in my own text as well. So in this case I might want to show the organisation's name, so I simply go down to that particular attribute and double click on it and it'll add it to my instant alert message. So in this case name has a balance over 60 days. And that's basically how we would set up a rule to display an instant alert message when a CRM organisation is selected in quote entry and that organisation has a balance over 60 days. Now let's have a look at pop-ups in action. Here we have the user entering a brand new inventory item. So they would type in a brand new code for their inventory item, give the inventory item a description. Then on saving the inventory item, we can see that a pop-up message has come up. In this case, note you have not set a primary location for the big spanner. So again, we can use instant alerts and pop-ups to give information to the users as they're doing normal data entry. Now of course, if the user had have done that in a different way, in this case typed in the inventory code, put the description in, gone to the defaults tab, and actually gone to the effort to actually set a primary location, and saved, in this case we wouldn't see that same pop-up message. So again, now let's have a look at how we set up the rule for that particular pop-up message. So here we are again in the rule maintenance screen. In this case we want the rule to fire on a stock item class, so we choose that particular class. Also in this instance we want the rule to fire when a new inventory item is created or an inventory item is changed, so we choose form driven, on new and on change. On our what to do tab we now need to check to see if the inventory item has had a primary location set up. Again, we'll see some standard conditions in here for inventory items, and again we'll jump into record selection criteria so we can actually get to the attributes on the inventory item. Within an inventory item there is a collection of all the locations that have been set up on the inventory item called all stock locations. So here we are now going through a collection of all the stock locations for this inventory item. Within that we want to check to see if any of them has been set as primary. So I'll give it a description. And within stock locations, on an inventory item, we can see there's an attribute is primary location. So again we would just double click on that to add it to our query on the left hand side. So if is primary location is true, and back to our higher level query, if none of them are true, so there are no primary locations, we want this rule to actually fire. Over to our Actions tab, and what we want to do in this instance is show a pop-up message. So we would click Display a pop-up message and then create our message in a similar way as we did with instant alerts. In this case, again, I'm going to select a property from the inventory item. In this case, it's description. And that's how we set up a pop-up message. The real key difference between instant alerts and pop-up messages are instant alerts are designed to show you something as the user selects a record. So in this case, as they select a record, the instant alert appears. Whereas with pop-up messages, normally that's around an event, like a save or a change along those lines. So in this case, as the user saves a record, that's when the pop-up message occurs.